I don't want to watch your stupid video. Just tell me, what are the best T4 upgrades for the Shadowlands? Okay. Number 1, White Tiger passive. Number 2, Moon Knight passive. Number 3, Night Nurse passive. Number 4, White Tiger special. Number 5, Night Nurse ult. Number 6, Daredevil passive. Number 7, Moon Knight ult. Number 8, Daredevil special. Number 9, Night Nurse special. Number 10, Electra passive. And number 11, White Tiger ult. All right, what's up guys? Today we're going to be talking all about the Shadowland team. How good are they? What tier 4 ability upgrades do they need and why? What isoid classes are best for these guys? We're going to be showing some gameplay footage, who they counter in war, and everything. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to cover a lot in this video, but I did want to call attention to what you see on the screen here, which is the All-In-One Infographic. If you've not seen one of these before, I have been hard at work on basically crafting a module to create these all-in-one infographics, and it is nearing completion. So I've only done one of these for one other team so far, but I will be putting these out for a lot of teams in the future. And this infographic is a handy dandy cheat sheet for everything you could ever possibly need to know about a team. It's how you line them up, the proper lineup left to right, how strong are they in each individual game mode, what rank are they overall across all the synergy teams, and where are they strongest, what alternate characters can you use for some of the rarest characters, who do they counter in war, who are they countered by, should they be offense or defense, what game mode are they most effective in, what T4s do they need, and what's the priority order, and that's just the team information. The resolution on these graphics is really, really good. You can zoom way, way, way in and get lots of information. So the individual character panels will show where the characters are available, how we rate their T4s in terms of the value of upgrading them, what isoid class they should be as an individual, what isoid class they should be on their team, how their stats are as a solo character, how their stats are on their synergy team, the total gear that they need going from tier 1 to 15, what mini unique they need and how many of them they need, what gear tier 14 minis and how many of each, what gear tier 15 minis and how many of each. There's a ton of information packed onto the all-in-one infographic. The idea behind this infographic is that it is literally the answer to any question you could possibly have about a team. So I will be producing these for a lot of teams coming out real soon. And you can get this for free whenever you want on my Discord server, discord.gg/Khasino. Anyone is welcome to join, and you can access all the infographics. In addition, I am going to start listing these a day or two early on the Patreon. So if you're a member of the Patreon, you will have a little bit of early access to these. All right, so first things first, we're going to talk about how good is the Shadowland, where should you be using them, what is the point of this team? And for that, hands down, they are an Alliance War team. In particular, we feel they are the second best Alliance War offense team. They might actually be the #1 Alliance War offense team. There is a single matchup that isn't really well tested, and that is against a giant Red Skull Hydra team. We're not sure if they can win an even power punch across against Red Skull Hydra in war, but that's not really a big concern because that team does have a lot of other counters. And aside from that one questionable matchup, these guys fear absolutely no one. On war offense, they can literally crush the Black Order, they'll crush the Marauders, Fantastic Four with She-Hulk, does not matter. They fear no one on Alliance War offense, with the exception maybe of a Red Skull Hydra team, but it's not really much of an issue. They are as effective on war defense. You can use them on war defense, but what really makes them scary is they have a ton of upfront damage. So you are likely to get one defense win if you use them on defense. However, they don't have a lot of sustain. Like they have, they're certainly not a super squishy team that you can just kill immediately, but they don't have the kind of healing and taunt juggling or anything like that that makes them hard to take apart if you're going to be hitting them multiple times. So they're unlikely to get you multiple defense. All right, regarding the overall efficiency of this team, we have them ranked as the 6th best team overall. They are an above average team and they're very scary. But their drawbacks are when they're controlled by the AI, they're not that formidable. They're not necessarily going to use all their upfront offense to hit the right targets. They might hit into some tanky characters or split up the damage and then not really be able to capitalize on it. And most importantly, they're not going to be able to use White Tiger to specifically hunt down low health targets and capitalize on those resets. The AI is really, really bad when it comes to characters that get resets, just doesn't use them properly. So they're not as scary in any mode where they're being controlled by the AI. And they're also not incredible for campaign, raid, dark dimension. While they're by no means terrible, they don't have a ton of consistent defense up, just occasionally when the Night Nurse passive triggers, and they don't have a ton of consistent offense down. They can get some offense downs and some blinds from a Moon Knight ult, but at the end of the day, they're not really built for sustain. If you want to get a feel for this team, they come out the gate really strong. They do a ton of damage, and they can even overwhelm teams like the Black Order with their upfront offense in Alliance War. So hands down, they are an Alliance War team, and we really recommend them specifically for Alliance War offense. Right, so really quickly going to address their positioning. The reason we have them positioned like this is as follows. If you have the T4 in the Electra passive, she is going to give stealth and evades to anyone adjacent to her. So naturally, you want to protect the two squishiest members, besides Electra, of course, which is going to be White Tiger and Daredevil. And since Night Nurse and Moon Knight are very tanky, you have them on the outsides. They're going to basically start matches with the three in the center in stealth with evades, which means that the enemy team is going to have no choice but to target one of the tankiest members on the team. And they're not really going to be able to use very many chains, because pretty much all chains don't continue to hit targets in stealth or anything like that. So even splash damage attacks are only going to hit one person to the left or to the right of one of those tanky targets. So it's just really, really safe for the team. And the Night Nurse special is going to heal not only the lowest health target, but any adjacent targets. And since it's more likely that one of these squishier characters will be more injured, you're more likely to get the full benefit of the heal and cleanse on the adjacent targets with the Night Nurse special as well. So this is just the smartest layout for this team. All right, we're going to talk about their T4s. Now, we recommend 11 T4s for this team. They all make a big functional difference. We're going to try to keep this brief. Starting with number one, the White Tiger passive. This one is just absolutely monumental. It gives the entire team an additional 30% speed bar on spawn. You have to have the White Tiger passive. You want to go before the enemy team, so you can just start disabling targets immediately. And yeah, they are nothing without this passive. The speed advantage that they get over almost every character on almost every team in just about every game mode is really, really impactful. And it gives another 30% speed bar to White Tiger whenever she gets a kill. Capitalizing on her resets is also a huge part of this team. Easy number one. All right, number two is the Moon Knight passive, and for a pretty simple reason, it is an additional 20% max health to the entire team in all game modes. They are definitely squishy. This shores up one of their biggest weaknesses. That extra health pays tons of dividends, both in how much White Tiger can heal herself with her ult, how much Night Nurse is constantly healing for. It's really, really huge, and it is absolutely a difference maker in a ton of matches, period. All right, next up is the Night Nurse passive, which is when any character is going to drop below 50% health on this team, she is going to give them defense up, and she's going to gain 30% speed bar. So again, this team does a ton of damage out the gate. Damage is not their issue. However, surviving long enough to actually be able to apply that damage is very critical, which is why you want that White Tiger speed so they get to use their abilities earlier, why you want that Moon Knight health, and yet again, why you want this. I literally did a war attack earlier today with this team where they were able to bounce back and actually execute the second half of their combo because a bunch of people got dropped low by one big enemy Hela ult, which meant that Night Nurse instantly gained a ton of speed bar, enough to instantly take a turn. She gave them defense up for some temporary protection, was able to pop her ult for a ton of healing, and then they were able to bounce back. So getting that speed over to Night Nurse when someone drops low means she can take a lot of turns, and getting them that defense up when they drop below 50% means that they might stick around long enough for her to be able to heal them. Up next is the White Tiger special, and this one is pretty straightforward. This ability in total is going to add another 380% damage to her opening ability, which she can use every 4 turns, and she's going to have offense up for, and it's piercing. So the sooner she can cripple someone and or kill that target, the better. You definitely want to take out a couple priority targets right away with this team, and they have the tools to do that, one of which is being able to add an additional 380% offense up piercing damage to White Tiger, not only on her first turn, but every 4 turns. So this one's a no-brainer. Up next, we have the Night Nurse ultimate, and this one changes this ability from being able to be used on her 3rd turn to being able to be used on her 1st turn. And this is an incredibly impactful ability. Not only is it a tremendous amount of healing when you factor in all the regens, but it is literally going to flip negative effects into positive effects. And in the first couple of turns is when a lot of enemy teams are going to put a lot of negative effects onto this team. So being able to turn heal blocks into death proofs, defense downs into defense ups, offense downs into offense ups, there's so many good abilities you can flip, and being able to do this whenever you want is very, very useful. I say whenever you want because otherwise you are forced to wait at least 3 turns to use this. So you don't always have to use this on turn 1. Sometimes I opt not to use it on turn 1, but having the option to use it on turn 1 is massive. If, for example, you want to undo an empowered Thanos flip because you're fighting Black Order, really, really big. Up next is the Daredevil passive, and this one is really big, but the reason it's not rated higher is because most of the benefits of this one don't come into play until at least one character on the field has taken an action. But make no mistake, it is pretty impactful. It is going to give Daredevil an additional 5% speed. It is going to allow Daredevil to give 10% more speed to the entire Shadowland team. He's going to gain 20% more dodge chance from being on this team. And then in Alliance War, they're all going to gain another 10% speed on top of the initial 10% speed. So it's just going to make this entire team quite a bit faster functionally, which means that they're going to have an easier time closing out matches after those first couple of turns. All right, next up is the Moon Knight ultimate, and he's going to be using this right away. It's a really big ability, and it's going to add to the range of damage anywhere from, at a minimum, 80% more damage up to potentially another 100% more damage on the upper end. But so you can think of it as roughly 90% more damage on this attack on average. But more importantly, all of the debuffs that he's going to be applying are now going to be for 2 turns. And depending on which debuffs these are, whether it's blinds or disrupts or heal block, having some of these things stay in effect for an extra turn can be really, really big. Not to mention that he can then use his special and get crits by attacking people that still have debuffs. And if that wasn't enough benefit, in addition to clearing 3 positive effects in War when you use this, it is instead going to clear all positive effects. In War especially, this is super useful, particularly against teams with a ton of positive effects, like the Black Order, Sinister Six, and teams like that. Up next is the Daredevil special, and while it does a little bit of a damage increase, potentially hitting an extra target for Daredevil himself when using the ability, the real prize with this upgrade is, instead of just giving Daredevil 2 turns of counter, it is going to give everyone on the team 2 stacks of counter, and that is a lot more counterattacking. It basically means that pretty much no chains can actually successfully be executed against this team, and if some poor soul actually fires off an AoE, since most of them can be counterattacked, it basically means that all 5 of the members of this team are going to immediately retaliate and probably kill that person. So it's just a ton of free damage, very worth. Up next is the Night Nurse special. And what this is going to add is, in addition to healing the most injured ally and some adjacent targets, it is also going to remove 3 negative effects from not only the target being healed, but also adjacent allies. So this can potentially remove 9 negative effects that it couldn't before. That can be very, very useful. There's a ton of negative status effects that removing them will make all the difference in the fight. For example, if it removes bleeds that were going to kill someone, there's so many instances where this can be a game changer. So very, very recommend. All right, up next, we are recommending the Electra passive, and this one isn't as impactful as some of the survival-focused T4s earlier in the list, but it definitely still helps, and that is that with that T4, Electra is going to provide evade and stealth, not only to herself, but adjacent Shadowland allies. She's going to put 3 people in a stealth right away, which is really going to hamstring a lot of different chains, and she's going to give evades to the people around her, so that's usually going to amount to some immediate damage reduction in terms of attacks they're not taking. So for the small T4 investment, just for that passive, you are getting quite a bit of additional survivability. So this one's also very helpful. And finally, we are going to recommend the White Tiger ultimate, and this one's going to do a few things. It is going to have her heal for an additional 10% max health, so instead of 40%, 50%. Instead of clearing only 3 negative effects from herself, she's going to clear all negative effects from herself. So both those things are helpful. But the real gem here is that it is going to add 140% damage to this ability. And this is going to be used on her 2nd turn. And that means she's pretty much always going to have offense up. So it's an offense up additional 140% damage. And that can be the difference between nearly killing someone and definitely killing someone. And because she's a reset character, the difference between a kill and a near kill for her could be the difference of 70% speed bar, allowing her to immediately take another turn. And even if it's just speeding her up to another basic attack, even her basic attacks are devastating. So you definitely want to get really good value on abilities where you can get a ton of extra damage, and this is one of them. All right, now we're going to talk briefly about our recommended ice weight classes for this team. So we'll start with Moon Knight. On this team, we recommend Moon Knight to be a raider. Even though he's decently tanky, his main role that he's providing here is damage and control, and he certainly doesn't need any focus. So the main thing that you want to help him with is damage, which means there's really only 2 options, raider and striker. But on this team, hands down, you want White Tiger as a striker, and you want her to be able to consume as many vulnerables as possible. which means you don't want Moon Knight as a striker as he will be stealing some of those vulnerables away from her. So you want to make him a raider. It's still going to help his damage, and he's going to open up with an AoE that's going to hit everyone. So really good opportunities to get crits and put vulnerables down. And then more importantly, his special is always going to crit as long as the targets have debuffs, which his ult is going to literally coat the entire team with debuffs. So if you have him as a raider, when he uses his special, he should go around and effectively put a vulnerable on every single enemy that he's bouncing around hitting, setting White Tiger up to do a ton of damage consuming those vulnerables. So he is very much a raider. All right, next we're going to talk about Daredevil, and it's pretty much the same situation. You do want to give him damage. His main function on this team is as a damage dealer. You don't want to be stealing vulnerables away from White Tiger, and he does a lot of multi-hit and multi-target. His ultimate has a ton of opportunities to crit as it's going to chain into a bunch of different enemies. His special is also going to chain into a bunch of different enemies. So again, a lot of opportunities to get down some crits. Even his basic attack is always a multi-hit. So he's just always giving you a lot of chances to get some crits. And any crit is both more damage and more vulnerables. So for that reason, he's a raider. All right, and next up, we are talking about Elektra. And on this team, we recommend you run her as a skirmisher. And the simple reason is Elektra goes first. And following Elektra is going to be White Tiger. So a way to guarantee that there is a vulnerable for White Tiger to consume is by having Elektra as a skirmisher. Whether she opens up with her special or her ult, she's going to hit the enemy team. So skirmisher Elektra, simple as that. All right, next we're talking about White Tiger. White Tiger is a no-brainer. White Tiger is a striker for a lot of reasons. The first is her ISO bonus attack is amazing. It is going to apply a 1-turn heal block and a 2-turn defense down. So even if she's not using her basic attack, a 1-turn heal block and a 2-turn defense down will get added to any attack that she uses in addition to the extra damage. And the extra damage is also very important, firstly, because she has really good uptime with the offense up at the start of the match. More importantly, because anytime she gets a kill, she's going to gain 70% speed bar as long as you have that T4 in her passive. And so giving her extra opportunities to hit a target again for more damage means she is more likely to be able to kill someone, which means she's more likely to be able to get more turns, rinse and repeat. It gets real crazy real fast. Finally, we're going to be talking about Night Nurse, and of course we recommend Night Nurse as a healer. She has a ton of active healing abilities. She has a really good health bar, and depending on how much the Shadowland team's health are bouncing up and down, she can be gaining a lot of speed bar. If they get dropped below 50%, she gains speed bar, and then if she heals them up, they might go above 50% and get knocked back down. She can be taking a ton of turns and therefore handing out a ton of minor regen and % max health heals. So she just completely benefits from healer in every way. She's a great healer. She should be a healer. All right, so there you have it. I try to keep this concise, but of course, if you want a TLDR, you can go to discord.gg/Khasino, and in either the Khasino Infographics channel or the Orange Essentials channel, you can find the all-in-one infographic that has everything I just covered and more. So any feedback on this new format of video is much appreciated. I'm going to start releasing a video for every single team based around the all-in-one infographic that we make for them. So if there's additional information you want me to include in the video, or if there was some parts of this that I didn't need to cover and you want me to keep it shorter, any feedback you have on this format of video is much appreciated, because I want this to be the one-stop shop video that you can watch to fully understand a team. So yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, please leave them in the comments. I will be reading your feedback and trying to make this the best video that I can. But on that note, I have gone on plenty long enough, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you guys very much for checking out this video. Huge shout out to Krazy for helping me with the all-in-one infographic module. Shout out to Livepool for editing this video. Shout out to Twitch chat for hanging out live while we're recording it. And yeah, on that note, please be sure to like, subscribe, and carry a flashlight. And I will see you guys real soon. Till next time. Peace.